there, good evening. Welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve Matt, and it's a pleasure to welcome you back here for another wee show.
What do you want me to play?
Nothing, Alexa. We're going to have a wee look back at the weekend's
Nothing is
action.
Impossible and similar songs on Amazon Music.
That's... Oh, 1 second, hold on. Technology. You can't speak without things going off in the background. Unbelievable. Imagine that being the thing that wasted my introduction. No, this is not some sort of Jeremy Beadle-esque sketch. This is Celtic World Order podcast. I am Steve O'Matt, and yes, we will talk Celtic Football Club. We will talk about that game at the weekend. We'll talk, let's be honest, we'll talk about what happened elsewhere in the week because, upsetting because it's the end of another era. And of course, you'll probably see there, I did hold off. I wanted to be able to come on here and give you some sort of update regarding the meeting with the representatives from the fans groups, the collective, and the board members today. That was at 6 o'clock. I have had some texts on the old phone here, and it said that it lasted about 2.5 hours. It's not for me to say. I will, if I get anything, I will update it. There was some texts, if you will, put in there, and I asked, is this to be discussed or are we waiting for clarification? And the generalised opinion is let's hold off until the collective put together a wee letter, which, okay, that's fine. And as and when I get that, of course, I will update you. I'm not going to lie, I feel a wee bit let down because I think if every fan, you guys that are sitting here watching us now, everybody was waiting with absolute bated breath. And I didn't think it would be that difficult to literally just throw out a couple of key points. I don't care if it's on headed paper. I want to know what happened and I want to hear as near as possible to when they left there. As I say, it's about a 2.5 hour meeting. Obviously, people are coming from various places, but I felt that communication really probably should have been with us directly. However, if I get anything there, I will update you and I'll let you know. So anyway, welcome back to the channel. As always, thank you very much for the continued support. The numbers have been going heavily good lately, and we really appreciate everybody that's hit that subscribe. If you haven't done already, do it. It costs you nothing. Celtic World Orders content is all free. And of course, it will continue to be that way. If you want to help out, you can do. Like Celtic Maid is a new member. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. We donation the member section, $1.99. Helps with overheads, helps with equipment, helps with the random stuff that we buy and that we distribute. Promotional stuff, stickers, magnets, all that kind of stuff that you'll see when you get out constantly. So get us on X, Spotify, TikTok, Bhoysc, you know it all by now. Links are below and connect with us elsewhere on there. But yes, let's get down to business. As I said, I'd held off because I wanted to ideally give you that update. And unfortunately, I do apologise. I'm flying solo again. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it, and that's me. And I will say I won't try to keep you too long because I still have this tonsillitis and it is very, very sore. And I also have an appearance on This Is Axon, which I need to get myself ready for as well. So I don't want to completely blow my voice out, but let's do it the best that we can. So yes, game at the weekend. Quite an exciting one, wasn't it? I came on here and I said that when we were going to be playing Motherwell, I didn't quite know what we were going to get. I genuinely didn't know what we were going to get because, as we know, Motherwell are quite a exciting team, if you will, at this moment in time. They are, trying to play football, as they say, do it the right way, try to attack, try to be expansive. And I thought, based on that, based on the fact that Celtic hadn't really scored a lot of goals, weren't particularly potent, the fact that they would come at us, I thought, this is a game with a lot of goals in it. I did say that. I said I would take a win anyway it came, but I thought that we'd be open, they'd be open, and it could be a goal fest. And it turned out that way. We got there in the end. We got 3-2 right there at the end with a 92nd minute absolute Hail Mary goal. Brilliant goal. We'll go on to that. But I thought, for the casual observer, a pretty good game. Pretty exciting. And despite the shakiness in the way that the game and the result came around, I was quite happy for it. It was nice to sit down and be entertained watching Celtic for a while. Now, I'm not going to kid you on. Did I think it was perfect? Am I sitting here and going, yes, it's amazing, we're back, that's us, we're back to playing football? No, but I think that kind of result, as it says on the tagline, never say die, that real fighting, digging in, win, going the extra mile, right to the death, that kind of thing, and you saw the reactions for the players on the pitch when the ball hit the net. You even saw big up Kelechi Iheanacho running up and down that touchline, Mourinho-esque and off his nut. That's the kind of buy-in that I want to see from my players. That is exactly what I want to see. And just wee small things like that. It can be a watershed moment. It can be a sliding doors moment. Because let's not forget, when we looked at results elsewhere on this game, there was a point where the difference between ourselves and Rangers. Now, I know, look, we've got to still talk about them. People say, forget about them. They're not in the title race, so on and so forth. There's a lot of stuff, there are a lot of changes ahead, so that might change. But at that point, we were 4 points off them. Talk about sliding doors. Then the equaliser goes into them, then we dig it out, and before you know it, we're back to the 9 points. So it just shows you in a matter of moments that how things can completely change, and all those factors combined together. I just think that it's phenomenal. It's a real good feel good factor, a great win, a well deserved, a fighting victory. Showed real character, real spirit, real togetherness to get that result. And particularly going into another international break, you think to yourself, right, this maybe has came for us at a pretty good time. So I'm hoping that it will be the catalyst to push us on, that you'll see those players come together. You saw it on their, as I said, their faces and the way they reacted when it hit the net. Maybe they're starting to really get that we need to do more, and they're going to push those extra couple of yards, put in the extra bit of mileage when it comes to putting in the performances, and hopefully we can turn it around. Hopefully we can come out of the international break, we can reset, we can refresh, we can reevaluate things and come back a better version of ourselves. Now, I did say that about the last international break, and of course, well, where we are for there, that we're still doing not too bad, but the performances weren't quite there. So hopefully this will be a turning point for it. Let me get up some comments here. Let me know what you guys are thinking of the performance. Is there anything else you want to talk about? As I says, I am on, so I'm always happy to field your questions. Anything you want to talk about, anything you want to throw out there and bring it up there. Square Sauces is saying, are the collective keeping quiet? Let me check the phone. Yes, I don't really have anything at this moment in time. Yeah, so it's basically the updates are saying people are chasing it and they expect that people want updates and they want them fast. Maybe something will come through to me on the course of this stream, but if not, as I say, I know I saw it a wee bit sort of disappointed in the way I was putting out there and saying, I'm pretty no news exactly. Celtic made no news. As I said, I put it out there that I'm a wee bit annoyed. I'll be honest with you, I'm a wee bit annoyed. Um, I am still very much, as fully behind the collective, fully behind this cause for change. But that doesn't mean, as I said before, we support the collective and we will appreciate their sort of input. We take guidance off of what they're doing. It's like anything. You don't want things to drip out there. You don't want things to get out in the ether if they have not been confirmed and wrapped up and put together. We don't want rumour and innuendos to say. We just want to give you the hard facts. So even though there's been some text messages fired to me, it's not from official channels. So it could be complete and utter hearsay. I heard this and I heard that. Before you know it, the truth has been extended out to there. Somebody's added in their wee bits and you get something, you're reporting it inaccurately, which we don't want to do because, it just makes a mockery of the process. And of course, we don't want to be giving you misinformation. But yes, that is it. We'll see the Desmonds taking kindness for weakness. I'm really genuinely and interested to hear of what comes out of this. I had said a couple of times that when I was in these chats with other people that were going to the meeting and stuff, I says the one thing that I want to be put to the board, and I'll be honest with you, if it's not been put to them, I'll be absolutely fuming, was I want it to have been made clear to them that we as a fan base think that two of those guys that were there are past their sell-by date, that they have failed and that they should be moving on. Of course, Nicholson and Mackay. And see, if they didn't say it to them, then I think it's a complete and utter failure of the process. Yes, it's hard to say those kind of things when you look at the whites of a person's eyeballs and say something that's a bit unpopular and completely, against them. But what's the point if you're not going to tell them the truth? I don't think it would have been, as some people are saying, all sort of tea and biscuits and smiley and sort of, coming in and just being told what to do. There was many representatives there. They know the expectation of people like you and I, and that's it. We'll see what they say. we'll get the information out there soon enough and we will bring it on. But we can't talk about what we don't have at the moment. But what we do have is that game at the weekend. So, as we always do, let's just start back. You've not by now, you see it there. But let's just start our kicking off point, as always, with that team lineup. And when I saw the lineup there, there's still a few things that I'll be honest with you that kind of surprised me a wee bit. To see um, Ralston keeping a place. I haven't heard anything, correct me if you know, but I haven't actually heard anything regarding the situation with Donovan. Now, I know he didn't have the most comfortable of nights against Braga. I thought he was quite positive. It was one of the few times and outings that he's had where he's not looked particularly as solid as he were. But again, you'll say that's stepping up a level. Playing Braga is definitely stepping up. Playing the European games will be tough. Ralston comes back in. We'll get on to the Bricky. We'll go on to Tony. You know where I'm at with them, and I think these moments in this game as well, particularly when you're playing against a team like Motherwell, a team who, yeah, they're not great shakes, they're not amazing, they're not exactly killers, but they are well drilled, they're playing good football, and they were always going to cause you problems. So that's one there for that. I think Sarashi, yeah, gives away the penalty. Other than that, I thought another relatively solid outing by him. I know I saw a lot of people in the comments saying, "Oh, Steve, I don't know what you seen Sarachi. I don't know what you seen him," but I actually think I think there's a right good player in there. He gives us a right good level of energy, and people say, "But that's all he's got." But I also think that bar the sort of wee fall that he had, and obviously the penalty, which I think is a challenge that he does have to make. Maybe the execution's a bit reckless, but other than that, I think he's pretty good. I think there's a lot in there, and he offers us a lot more than Kieran Tierney at this moment in time. We get back to the midfield, and again, there was improvements I thought in there definitely. We'll go through them. I don't think of them all. I think that for me, McCown was the guy that let us down. When we get the substitutions, there's a big difference. Then we get Maeda, Taneki, Iheanacho. Now, what I would say is with the Taneki and Maeda situation, I'll be totally honest. Despite him coming up and popping up with that winning goal, I was cursing Daizen Maeda pretty much solidly all the way through the period that he was playing out on the right. Again, this comes back to maybe this age-old argument of guys are playing out of position. It's not necessarily what they want to be. But then I also was thinking a lot of this, is this a guy that's checked out? And I'll be totally honest, until he made the switch, he didn't look interested. Did any of you get that feeling out there? Did you get that feeling that he just didn't look that bothered? I wouldn't go as far as to say down-tooled, but I think that the first half for me, that a large parts of Daizen Maeda's game was absolutely frustrating. I was tearing my hair out and I was saying, this guy is absolutely a joke. He's no caring. But then when he switches it up and he gets put through the middle again, and period where he's over on the left, he looks a lot more dangerous. He looks up for it, and then of course it's a mental actually the fact that he throws his head that low for a diving header to put it away. But absolutely, like he just a game of moments for Daizen Maeda. He went from being totally honking to popping up with a winner. I'll be honest, I thought that, like, when you look at the whole game and you look at Daizen Maeda, the fact that he was still on to score the goal is surprising in itself. It really is. It's surprising on its own. And as Brown saying there, yeah, it's true. There's gaps on the right side. Forrest did well when he came on, trying to make inroads. Maeda didn't necessarily do. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Excuse me. I think that's just looking at it though. I was surprised that he lasted that long. I really am surprised that he lasted that long to turn up with a goal. But again, maybe that says more about what we've got in terms of options. But if you do remember back to the criticisms that I had after the European game, I says, maybe the manager just needs to get to that stage where he throws everything at it and hope it works. And probably he's going, well, I've taken off Iheanacho, so I need somebody that's technically a striker on the pitch, and he kept and rolled the dice and went for it, and it paid off. So, fair play with that is. Brown's also saying regarding Tanuki, same issues as Kuhn did in the second half. Defenders are doubling up, yes, and that is. I think that he had a pretty decent game again. Maybe not quite as, influential in terms of just sheer danger, but he's not coasting. He's doing the best that he can, and even when he's faced with the challenge of the double up, he's still trying to be positive, and that's as much as I can ask for. You can't Wingers, as we know, are completely inconsistent, and it's very, very rarely that you're going to have that consistency. Man of the match performance after man of the match, but it's just not going to happen. But he continues to show enough and show that he's got what we need at this moment in time. And as I says, with some of the games that are coming up, the wee bit of a rest, that'll probably be good for the likes of him because he has come in, he's been thrust into a lot of games, a lot more competitive games than he will have played. And again, I am mindful that when guys are coming over to a team like Celtic with the demands and the pressures, the tempo, the pace, that kind of things, which I know you'll laugh at me saying the tempo and the pace as of late, but in general, the principles of the pressing and stuff like that, they can burn out a wee bit quick. So for guys like him and a guy like Ian Acho, who's had a good hitting the ground running, I think the international break will be perfect for them. I don't know if they're away. Hopefully they're not. But either way, they'll be in a different setup whenever if they do go away with their national sides, and it will be sort of time to reset, as I said. So that's I'm kind of fairly happy with that. But yep, having a wee look through it, I think that, as I say, we'll just look at some of the performances as we always tend to do and some of the key points. Now, what I did find interesting, and I mentioned to you, as I said, I thought the game would be quite open and expansive, was the high risk, high reward style of play the manager Motherwell was trying to, sort of imprint on his team. And quite early on, I thought, right, okay, here we go. And one thing that I would say that I quite liked was Cal McGregor. Now, I've been coming on and I've been flogging him. So it's been Paddy. I've been absolutely flat flogging him because he's been overly safe. He's not been sort of really influential. He's not been getting off shots. He's not been trying to make things happen. And it was an improvement. It was definitely for me a marked improvement on performances of Cal McGregor. Is he, back to being absolute peak? No, no, I don't think so. But I could kind of see where he was playing. That super deepness that he had been sort of removed a wee bit. He was trying to get more, forward than normal, which was good to see. I think that was a wee bit maybe by default because I didn't actually think he get too much help out of Rio Hatate or particularly McCown, who I kind of, again, he's another player that I'm flipping and flopping on. I do like him. I think he's good value for money when we look at what we've got. But I have very much made a decision that I think that he is a impact guy. That's pretty much for me where he's at. He is an impact guy. And the more that I've looked at him, in the same way that I will criticise certain players of a higher market value, and I know that value and price shouldn't affect your, thoughts on how they are as a player. But when I criticise guys for being a certain price and you think, right, okay, I expect more from him, I expect the touch to be better, the distribution to be better, less mistakes, that goes without saying. I do, and I'll be honest, and I realised this after watching the game there. I think that I give McCown a wee bit of allowances because he's so cheap. But when I actually look at him, a lot of the stuff that I criticise Maeda for, such as losing the ball and wayward passes, he was definitely of that midfield trio for me, the guy that was, culpable the most often. And again, it just comes into this idea of is he Celtic quality to be a starter, to be somebody that you can hang your hat on and definitely do it game in, game out. No, I don't think so. But I think if because he's, because he is in the same way of criticising a Ralston and that, but because he is always one of us and all that kind of stuff, I think if you bring him on, you will get more out of him. You'll get more of an eagerness to impact the game. Whereas when he gets to start, you might get the wee short early burst of that, and then he just starts to fade and he floats in and out of the game. So I think that's what happens with him. Definitely. I think so for me, moving forward, I think it needs to be an impact situation because I did think that when we made the changes, who again, a guy Negrin, for example, who that I've been criticising and saying that I think that the stats show that he's our best performing player at this moment in time. But I think that the eyeball test, at times he can drift and he can fade. Him in particular, another guy, Ernest Engels, who gets a lot of hard press and a lot of stick, particularly for Paddy. Don't know if he's watching, but they two guys really changed the tempo of that midfield and made the differences. They really, really made the differences. So I think that that's something that the manager needs to think about when we do it. And also, even bringing in Engels and Negrin, who was still there with McGregor on the pitch, you didn't get that normal cancelling out of the way that we'd expect him to play from McGregor being there. It was quite subtle in that McGregor still stayed quite high, but it allowed guys like Engels, as we are saying, to fall back a wee bit and try and get his foot on the ball. And he was very forward thinking. He was always looking for the forward pass, and him and Negrin, I thought, complemented each other quite well. So that now could be the learning curve. That could be the go-to three moving forward to go into it. But yep, just to look at some of the action there, obviously, one thing, as I says, with Cal McGregor, I thought early on in the game, quite good. I liked the fact that he was getting involved. I liked the thought that he was getting in around the edge of the box and he was getting some shots off. I mean, that very, very early one, actually, I'm putting it down to being a bad miss. You know, where he gets played through, he's at the back post and he just kind of side foots it at the goalkeeper. That probably should be in the net. But then again, didn't deter him. We get that. He leads to the penalty. It comes out. He gets the shot off. You know, it's a stone waller. The big defender jumps, makes himself, you know, making himself big, as they say. The hands are out. It's a stone wall penalty. Obviously, I then saw McGregor with the ball, and I'm thinking, right, okay, I don't fancy you taking the penalty here, mate. But he walks up to Ian Acho, and what did you think about that with Ian Acho? Because what I found quite surprising was it was almost as if Cal McGregor was presenting the ball and saying, I want you to take this. You know, I thought that, you know, his record and he's been doing well, that but no brainer. You are on the penalties. But the big man steps up, as cool as a cucumber again, great penalty, gives a goal with the eyes, fires it down his left, we're 1-0 up. And I thought, you know, deservedly so at that point. And other than that, it was kind of open. The game was quite open. There was a couple of times where, because we've got the high line, you know, Motherwell try to do that pressing, and he had a wee bit of sort of joy with those balls in behind, which, well, by and large, I thought Sriracha covers quite well. There's a great tackle as well with Scales. And they two, for me, they were definitely the strongest suit in the back line. Yeah, we concede 2 goals. You can, you know, toss a coin when it comes to the goal to go ahead. Who's at fault between Carter Vickers and you know, Scales, but I think that the left side of the defence was the better part of the suit. I felt that those are guys that were kind of largely digging us out, and again, it comes back to it. I think that Carter Vickers, he still doesn't look comfortable. I can't really put my finger on it, but at this moment in time, and this is crazy to say, and I said it before, where Scales is Celtic's man of the season so far, and I know it's only a couple of games in, but he is the MVP Celtic at this moment in time, and it just is sort of stark contrast to the Carl Vickers that's beside him, and I didn't think that him or Ralston had a particularly tidy game. You know, a lot of their play for Motherwell, they were trying to get down that left hand side, which kind of surprised me because even though they were getting it in and over, the recovery speed of Sriracha and Scales kind of took care of itself. The one or two times that they went down the right hand side, I felt that they caused it slightly more troubles, but they didn't really go to that. So you are seeing CCVs now and HGV. Aye, he's definitely um, living up to that, the fridge, isn't he? Because he looks like he's towing a fridge at the moment. I mean, he's never been blessed with great pace or anything like that, but I think that he is. I think that he's definitely on a downward trajectory at this moment in time. He's very much sort of going like that. It's in waves. There's no consistency levels from him, so he's pretty lucky that he's got you know, big Scaldini behind him to sort of back him up and support him there. But no, I thought that, as I said, the left hand side of the defence was quite good. As I mentioned with Sriracha, I do still quite like him. He has got that sort of, and I hate to generalise, but it is true. See, when you look at a lot of the South American guys, particularly defensive type positions, hotheads, you know, a bit reckless, mad as a box of frogs, running about full of energy, just flying around. And you got that out of Sriracha. I think he did have a good game. I will still say he had a good game. I really like him going forward, and he's got a great recovery pace, so he doesn't really get caught out that much. It's not really, Celtic are not really, very often are there going to be one-on-one situations, you know, for our backline. There will be, of course, but not as regular as other, you know, other teams in the league where they're constantly facing up a guy. Usually we get balls played in behind, and it's all about recovery pace and sliding in or sneaking a ball away, and he's good at that. He is good at that. He obviously has the one mistake where he's backtracking and he basically falls on his arse, and we're quite fortunate to get away with that one. But then, of course, the penalty comes around, and it's another one for him. But as I say, I think it's a tackle that he's got to make. Let's talk about the equaliser, because again, the two guys that I had said that I was not really enjoying were, of course, McCown and Ralston. Now, it is an absolute hospital pass for McCown. I don't know what he's doing. It is one of the worst passes into the middle of the park that I'll ever have seen in a long, long time at Celtic Park. And Ralston doesn't help issues with his touch like a trampoline. It is terrible, absolutely terrible. Of course, by that point, we've been dragged out of position. We're sort of in behind and they get the ball in. And that's what I say is where between Carter Vickers and Scales, it was the one proper criticism that I'd have of Scales, where the two of them looked as almost if they got in each other's way. You know, the striker makes an intelligent run, but he gets between the two of them. And Scales obviously tries to make the last ditch tackle and slides at the foot, but it really shouldn't be happening. He shouldn't be getting slid in between the two guys, because they're big, big guys. And is it Stalopoulos? I don't know how you say his name. It's a cracking name. I don't know. Just call him Stana or Palopoulos. He gets in, goes in, one each. Before you know it, you're like, right, here we go. That's it. Terrible. But up to that point, I didn't really think that Motherwell were going to score. I didn't. I thought they would get in behind us and cause us troubles, but I didn't see the goal coming. And then, of course, when we got on it, we get the penalty. And, but it is what it is. It's a bit loose for the ball to come in, and I think he's caught sleeping. Positionally, he was quite poor. I'm quite surprised about the centre half at that point, but he goes in, and neither Scales or Carter Vickers are getting anywhere near it. So he has to come across as the nearest man, and he has to try and interfere. He needs to try and influence the play. He sticks out a sort of lazy leg, and he does make contact with him. Now, I was surprised at the initial time we seen it that the penalty was given, because the player goes down and he gets up and he's actually kind of, the referee's kind of apologising, almost as if I went down a wee bit too easy there. So I thought common sense is going to prevail. The guy's took a heavy dive. He knows he's taken a dive and it's going nowhere. But then when you wind it back, he does catch he catches the foot of the striker, and you can't be doing that. It is what it is. Is it enough to put him down? No, it's not. I think the ball's running away from him. But at that point, apart from that, I think it's pretty standard. You're going to get it as soon as you get called over the VAR. You know it's coming. And again, good penalty. Takes it. There we go. 2-1 down, and you're thinking, here we go. Here we go. And that's it. 2-1 down. And as I said, at that point, we get results elsewhere, games elsewhere. Celtic are 4 points of a difference between Rangers and ourselves. And then, of course, it extends Hearts' lead at the top. So these are the sliding door moments for us. Now, at that point, it's pretty clear that we need to do something, because they started growing in confidence. They continued to play good football. I did like what I saw. We're moving it about, and you know what? I take my hat off. Very, very rarely will I come on here and praise another team as such. But I've got to be honest. I'm a football fan, and I like that. How many times do we see people in the comments, or they're talking and they're saying things like, oh, anti-football, teams come and they bed in, 2 banks of five, they're no interest. They just try to suck up Predator, cash you on the break, boring, suit of order. And as I always say, it's not for other teams to go, we're playing at Celtic Park today, so we better go out there and try and do something, better play some nice footman, keep the ball on the deck and all that. It's not up to them, but they come out and they are playing a right good brand of football. And I think there's something to be said about that, because they've completely went against their DNA, which was be compact, be aggressive, be physical, don't get relegated, stay up, just do enough in these games. And fair play to them. I think if they came out of that with a point, you wouldn't have felt hard done by. Well, you would feel hard done by for the result, of course. But what I mean is, you probably couldn't complain, because they tried their best and they made a game of it. And I really, really liked that. And as Brown's saying, yeah, very similar in terms of the Aberdeen that we've seen a fold. Maybe they're a team that are going to be a turning point. Of course, they're playing Dundee and they scudded them 4, could have been about 5-0. Surprise package there for them. And it'll be interesting to see how many Celtic can take off against Dundee, because if an absolutely honking Aberdeen can reignite their season by scudding them, well, you like to think that Celtic will do it. And as the reviewer Daniel saying, absolutely, it is the style that we should be playing. It's got a lot of the Brendan DNA in it. This passing out for the back, there is a bit of retention ball in it, but it's direct, and I like that about them. And I will, always take my hat off to teams that play good football. But I saw enough of that also in ourselves, and that was good. We get the subs, the big subs that make a raft of changes that I said definitely I felt they were the game changer. This is one of the few games in recent times where the substitutions that Brendan Rodgers has made have had a genuine impact, a genuine effect on the outcome of the game. Hatate, McCown, Taneki, they all come off. We get Nigran, Engels, and Forrest coming in. Of the three of them, Taneki, I say, is the best of the three that comes off the pitch. Did I think that it was, vintage? What is vintage Taneki at this moment in time? Who knows? But is it first 2-3 games Taneki? Well, no, it's not. But he's still done enough of the positive things and enough for me to be happy with that performance. We can't have him influencing every game, every moment. That just won't happen. But as long as he's doing the right things, getting in the right positions, you can't fault a guy for that. I have been criticising guys like Yang, guys like Balakwisha, who we will go on because I saw positives in him. I've been criticising them guys like Maeda who haven't been trying to drive, haven't been trying to get forward, and have just faded out the game. No matter how things were thrown at him, he kept coming round. So pass marks for him. I think McCown basically made me make my mind up that I think that he's an impact guy moving forward. Maybe in games against, say, a Falkirk, a Dundee, could you start him then? Well, absolutely. But I think in general, for the vast majority of the games, he is your, excuse me, he is your 65-minute guy. Bring him on 65, 70 minutes. And you'd rather get that burst of energy that he's got at a sort of late period in the game where he will be eager to influence the game, because I just think that he starts hot, he fades, and he becomes quite lax. He loses a lot of possession, and particularly, as I said, against a team like Motherwell, you can't afford to lose possession, particularly when they're high pressing you, because you will lose the ball in high parts of the park, which we saw for the one each for the equaliser in that game. And it was too often when Hatate loses the ball, he tends to lose it in a more advanced part of the pitch over the halfway line in the opposition half when he's trying to thread a dangerous ball or something like that. All right, there'll be an occasional lost pass in general, but he loses the ball higher up the park. McCown exclusively just can lose it anywhere on the pitch, and it's just a sort of casual, a bit of a lackness in them that I didn't quite like. So, but Negan comes on and instantly, makes an impact. Again, still a guy that I'm still trying to work out exactly what he is. I think he's probably more a number 10. I think that's fair to say. He's definitely not a winger. He's not blessed with hundreds of pace or anything like that. But he's a guy that really made amends for some pretty poor performances as of late. He came on, he was full of energy. And what I liked about him, when he came on, he was working in tandem with Arne Engels. And then once you introduced Balakwisha, for the last sort of 13, 14 minutes or something he got, the three of them were working almost like a wee trio, working a wee triangles. It allowed Cal McGregor just sort of took a wee back step and went, you guys go and create and make it happen. And they were all there for people. I thought that they were all there for people. They were all trying to, find a pass, make themselves available. I don't agree with you, Connor. I'll be honest, as I say, we're all about completely different, completely different opinions. I don't think all he done was foul players. He had a couple of fouls, but again, I won't criticise that, because why was he fouling people? Because he was coming on and he was desperate to influence the game. When he went into the ball, he was pressing, he was trying to win it, and that will come with committing fouls. Now, was it maybe a wee bit often? Yeah, potentially. But one of the things that we've always criticised Arne Engels about is not doing that. not closing a man down, not putting a foot in, not doing the hard work and doing the dirty work, and just coasting about and waiting for the ball. So I would rather see a wee bit of sort of dig, a wee bit of enthusiasm, a bit of eagerness to influence the game, win the ball, and get in about it than not. So I'm never going to criticise a player for doing that. Let me see some message are coming in here. There, aye, absolutely. So, listen, thank you very much. Listen, I'm not well. It's a wee bit tonsillitis. I'm hardly dying off here, but as I says, win, lose or draw, we'll always be here and talking about it. But yes, I think coming back to what I was saying about the guys that were on the pitch, and Scott, yeah, we've said this. There is a player in Engels, and I hate that. I hate that phrase. There's a player in there. It's usually a cover-all for mediocrity. But there really is. And, we've signed him for a reason. And before he came to us, he was, for lack of a better term, hot shit in the Bundesliga. He was definitely one that was raising eyebrows and folk were looking at. And I always argued at the time that Celtic had, if they were going to go and roll the dice on a guy like Arne Engels, they had to do it that season. They had to do it when we got him in, because if they didn't and he kicked on at the level that he was in the Bundesliga, he would probably find himself a bigger move, and by that point you're priced out. Yeah. Now, Daniel's saying he doesn't think that he is Celtic quality. Again, I don't agree with that. I don't think that he has shown outstanding quality, cover to cover, so to speak, since he's been at Celtic. But I think that he's shown enough. Has he truly justified the price tag, which will always be the big question? No, I don't think he has. He's got a long way to go before he really. I'm just checking for updates on this here. Still nothing, unfortunately. I still don't think that he is really truly cemented. Yes, that is my value, and I still don't think at this moment in time the Celtic double their money on him, triple their money. Absolutely not. I think at this moment in time, if Celtic were to sell him, they clean their nose on him, they maybe get back, 12, 13 million, maybe 14 as a slight profit at a push, but that's irrelevant. I think I've seen the games where he has been good, and I know you'll say they're few and far in between. The games where he has looked good and tidy, they have been good. The games where he's faded, aye, yeah, but like, what have we paid for here? But I felt that, and it's only a small, tiny sample size, that's the right application that I wanted from him. He was always looking for the forward pass. He was always making himself available. But I said, but that also comes with, I said, we need to find what his role is. If we're putting him in one single defined role, is he going to be a guy who's going to influence the game solely on his own? Is he going to take the ball, go on a mazy run, skin a few players or thread every single, telling pass? No, he's not. There's a place for mercurial talents, one-off guys that you just need to drop them and parachute them into a game and they change it for you. But football's a team game. And I think, as we saw there, when he was getting the assistance around him, when he was getting, Nygren coming, looking for the ball from him, joining up the play with him, coming short, Forrest doing that played to his strengths. It wasn't all about long passes. At times it was just passing and moving, but having that availability where he's not on the ball in the middle of nowhere and expected to find that worldy pass. I think that might be the key to unlocking the sort of benefits of Arne Engels, where he's more involved in the play rather than just being isolated on his own and expected to move it and make it happen. And I think that's also what I would say about Balikwisha when he came on. Now, I've been heavily criticising of Balikwisha, but again, I've quickly learned that he's not going to be the standardised winger, where he's going to take the ball and he's going to run at players like a Forrest, like Yang tries to do, like Jaw, like Taneki. That's not going to be him. Now, that's also going to be a bit of a conundrum, and that's going to be something that Celtic are going to have to negotiate. That's something that the manager's going to have to work out. But again, he contributed. Him, Nygren, and Engels all worked together, and you saw the benefits of it. But back to Nygren, we went off a wee tangent there. Yes, he comes in, he probably should score quite early on. I think it's quite a bad miss, if I'm being really pernickety. I know there's two guys sort of closing the angle, but comes off the bar from the cross from Sarashi, falls to him. It's a good position, and he fluffs his lines and blazes it over the bar. So pretty disappointing there, but of course he makes up for it. And again, as I said, the style of play that it'll be the sword that they fall on from Aberdeen, Motherwell. It was an absolute shocker, and it reminded me of the goal that Turnbull scored against Rangers, where the goalkeeper just, I don't even, brain fart, passes it straight to him, and it's a good finish. It's a good composed finish. He lifts it, he does the right thing. Slight criticism, running away to celebrate. It wasn't the time, mate. Get the ball. I liked it. You saw you natural. Grab the ball. Let's go. Right up the pitch. Get involved. Aye, the couple of people had to wave him back and tell him to wind himself back in, and it's not Brand Negrin here, it's Brand Celtic. He's get the job done. That slightly pissed me off a wee bit when he ran away and celebrated. Now, I know that he's came on, he's, oh yes, I've influenced the game, I'm buzzing, but you've got them on the ropes. You know, they've made a calamitous mistake. That's going to linger for a wee bit, take advantage. No, don't be running away. And folk were saying, oh, he cups his ears, he does that for our celebration. I don't think that was any shade getting thrown at the crowd or anything. But for me, definitely, get yourself back up there and show the desire. You've shown a lot of desire since you've come on the pitch, but show it start to finish. It doesn't stop because you've hit the back of the net. Get it up there and get it moving. But yeah, exactly. And as he says, Iheanacho, like really just, I saw a different side of Iheanacho in that game. We know he had his composure for the penalty, the way he was grabbing the ball, wanting to get up there, and then the celebrations at the end. That's absolutely, I'm all over that. And I think that we're getting to see this sort of peculiar character that you've heard guys like Schmeichel talk about, Hart talk about, Brendan Rodgers, but there is a leader in there and there's a real desire. And again, it comes back to a guy that wants to be there. That's what I want to see. So we get ourselves, it's two each. At that point, I still think we're knocking on the door. And then, of course, we get the goal. And in case you haven't saw it, why don't we just watch it again? Because there's none better than watching a last gasp goal than doing it again. So here we go. Now, again, looking at here, I think this is positive. We're moving it forward. It's such like this for me. This is a great pass. It's a brave pass for Engels right into Balakwisha, and it's a good ball across. This is brilliant, brilliant finish for Maeda there. I actually was kind of laughing because it was a total like dragging your face across the turf finish. If it was me as a striker, would I have dived at it with the heat? Probably not. I probably would have slid because I wouldn't want to get my dashing good looks a boot in the face. But no, I really think it's a great goal, well worked, positive, good pass. As says, good bit of driving for Engels, and it's a brave pass to go in there between the two players. But that's again looking at the position that Balakwisha takes up. As I say, he's not a standardised winger. Normally he's been in the games we've seen before, he's been lingering out the edge of the box, roughly probably where Arne Engels is. But I saw more of that where he was dropping into those wee sort of pockets. He was finding spaces, and that's what I was talking about when I said about him, Nygren, and Engels playing the wee triangles. They were sitting back and they were finding it, finding the space for each other. And I think that's, again, what you're probably going to get out of Balakwisha. He's going to be more of a winger that you have to play in. You have to get him in behind, find the passes and a wee give and go, and he'll get in behind. He's not going to take guys on with the ball at his feet, but he will push on beyond defenders. Think a wee bit of like what you would get with Maeda now. He's blessed with the pace, but Maeda has never been a great dribbler with the ball. He's never been a guy that's going to beat you by dribbling. It's about the ball getting knocked past you and getting onto it. Now, Balakwisha will do that, I think, but not with the pace. He'll need wee clever passes, and then he'll just peel away, he'll roll his body, and he'll get in behind. As we've seen there, it's a brilliant goal. And yep, absolutely. Diving cheddar, and the setup was great. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I like what Brown Water says there. That's a Larson goal. Do you know what? I'm not comparing Larson in my Eden Larson, but it's a brave goal. And Larson would have chucked himself at that anytime. But yeah, we come away from it. It's brilliant, and the celebrations are absolutely fantastic. Maeda looked just more comfortable when he get moved in. And again, he's a guy that I think that I criticised heavily. The first half, I thought, no interest that this guy can just go. He's no bothered. And I said that in the last game. But he came alive. He came alive right at the end when we needed him. And that'll do for me. I think realistically, when we look at him and we look at Rio, and the manager mentioned both their names in the same question, when he was talking about people that had maybe, you know, their time, their cycle had come up. I think all roads point to probably both of them leaving in January. But as I've said a million times over, if he wants to get that move, if he wants to go to a Premier League team or a team of any worth, he's going to have to start putting in the effort and he's going to have to find it. I thought that when he scored that goal against Kilmarnock and he was running away, pulling the shirt, similar like he'd done there was real passion. And he seems like a guy who's absolutely loving the impact that he's made with those goals. Maybe it's a subconscious thing where he knows that he's moving on and he's trying to enjoy these moments more than he normally would. Because he's at times it wasn't until last season started celebrating more. He was always kind of score the goal and just wander away. But there's real passion there, and maybe that is a sign of a guy who's thinking, right, I'm just going to try and make the best of these remaining time that I'm there. But I think come January, I know it's further down the line. Probably if these guys are, getting teed up to go, they have to go. We can't hold them hostage, if you will. But again, that'll come down to what the board do or don't. And as I say, the meeting, I know you're all asking about it. I still don't have any update, so I am apologising. I believe there's going to be something maybe around about tomorrow morning. So it was mentioned there, and I get a wee text there saying maybe around about 11ish tomorrow, there'll be a proper sort of announcement, if you will, from the collective. And obviously we'll talk about that and see what comes out of that. But yeah, I think that we need to really look at Daizen Maedas and get him invested, get him to come back to his best suit, play the way that we can know that he can play, but accepting that he has to move on in January. And that's where January is going to be massive. That previous transfer window was huge. We failed. January is absolutely gigantic, and we cannot, under any circumstances, afford to get that wrong. Now, as I say, we celebrated that massively, but they didn't really celebrate it, did they? I mean, I seen this picture, and for a 92nd minute goal getting in, particularly Peter Wall, it's not the best it looks, is it? It's no it's not the best it looks whenever you know what the fans are thinking of you. And every tiny shred, every crumb of enthusiasm or, yes, we are Celtic men, yes, we are fully behind this, kind of, show it. If you get the other two standing up and give it a wee clap, but I mean, my God, you wouldn't know we scored a 92nd minute winner. Jesus, somebody tell your face. But aye, it's pretty poor. And particularly when we look at the banners that were put out. True, Celtic board, unfit for purpose. And then I like this one. This was a wee cheeky handwritten number. Fuck the meeting, resign. I must admit, that laugh, that tickled me a wee bit, that one. I like a wee rudimentary, handwritten banner. That's a classic, right underneath them as well. But yes, I think that when you see things like that, the message is pretty clear. It's pretty stark. And as I said, I think that it would have been probably, at least if it was just for decorations, I always say, for them to look like they cared a wee bit and celebrate, kind of, us real human beings, not robots. Show a wee bit of passion. I'll not kill you. You're never going to convince us that these are these brilliant, amazing Celtic fans that bleed for the club. I always say they are Celtic fans, but they've now got to that stage where they've lived long enough to become the villain. They have totally split the two things. They have split the fan and the businessman completely. They're so far apart that they can't even see each other. And yes, I will say that if you are on a board and you're running something, you can't run something solely like a passion project. That is foolish. That's not the way to be successful. You can't just do everything with your heart over your head. But they don't even have that wee bit of heart in the decisions at this moment in time, it seems. And that's where change is needed. And maybe getting people in who aren't Celtic men is the answer. Get people in who are football men that understand the business of football and the importance of what happens on the pitch, as well as all the stuff around it. And I think that's the thing, because you'll go into things as a Celtic-minded person and I'm sure that you'll have the best of intentions, but as the corporate machine starts to wear you around and you get a wee bit stale and you get a wee bit comfortable, as we've seen with these guys, you lose that sight, and that's probably where we get the sort of attitude that we've seen for the board. The last time they put out the statement, that addressed nothing that we had asked, the statements that were in the accounts, and it's basically just an attitude of shut up, we know, you don't, and we're not doing anything wrong. And that's it, because they are looking at it simply just through business eyes. And by business eyes, I don't mean in terms of how much we are maybe winning or how much we've done in last season. I know we failed this one, but I mean in general, there is achievement still in there. They're looking at it for the business sense of the numbers, the headline numbers, the figures, the profits and stuff, and that's exactly why it's wrong. So we'll go on to that. We'll move on. But yes, I think that a decent result, as I say, is let's have a wee look at how it looked on the old stats as well. I think, pretty comprehensive. The 584 passes, it's a lot lower than we'd normally do, but I will say that as a positive, because I felt that for large periods of the game, we had cut out a lot of the horseshoeing across the back. I think that instead of trying to do something in 5 passes, we were doing it in 2. Instead of doing it in 7, we were doing it in 4. And that's small, small margins, but it all adds up. It looks still a lot better on the eye, sort of football. Still absolutely devastated by this corner situation. I've said that 1,000 times over in this podcast. Celtic need to start thinking about getting in the old set piece coach to not only for us utilising set pieces, corners, free kicks, but also defending them, because we're still pretty rough at corners. Maybe it doesn't help the fact your goalkeeper doesn't like coming for them. He's allergic to coming out for corners. But yes, I think that all over is a pretty good performance. I'm pretty happy with it. And as I said, hopefully as the catalyst to push on. I got criticised. I got criticised after the Hibs game, where it was similar. And I turned around and says, I felt that the performance flattered to deceive. And I was told, oh, no, no, Steve, they're battering teams. We're all over them. And I said, well, it'll count for nothing if we don't put in a similar performance against Braga. And then we were flat as a flat thing against Braga. So, as I says, I'll take these things at face value. It's a good, positive result. It's a escape to victory. There was a lot of passion on the sidelines. There was a lot of passion on the park. And hopefully, as I says, that importance, that sort of coming back for the dead moment, that sliding door moment, as I says, where your lead was, your lead over your other rivals was cut and you were falling further behind the guys at the top of the table. The realisation you flipped it all on its head, hopefully that'll buy into it, and that's going to kick us on coming out of the international. So to finish up, it gets us on to another wee bit of a laugh, of course. There's double laughs, of course, but the wee thing that we were calling Scottish football tin pottery, and this, can't get my head around it. Did you see this? This was Dafabet putting out an AI generated picture. He's somebody that slightly looks like Daizen Maedas, but nothing like him at the same time. The hair and the moustache, that's about it. The badge is a pure fake, weird Celtic badge thing. What? I mean, they did rectify it later on and they put out the actual picture of him, but what's going on there? What is the world come to that Dafabet, Celtic's main shirt sponsor, put out an AI generated picture of something that they actually had a fucking picture of? Somebody took the picture of him, but they done that. What, to get it out like, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes earlier? It's fucking absolutely stupid. I done it. I hate AI and all. It's absolutely terrible. It's absolutely shocking. But then again, let's to finish up. It would be remiss. I know we're a Celtic podcast, but let's take a moment of silence for another fallen soldier, because Russell Martin, RIP. The streak is over. I don't know what the streak was. The dream's over. Godspeed. Like, unbelievable. And again, that actually comes back to a wee bit of tin pottery as well, doesn't it? Because Scottish football tin pottery, we had the Union Bears doing a wee sit down protest to stop the bus. And I will say, I don't care if it's the Rangers manager, quite disgusting, quite unsavoury, the fact that the guy had to be um, snuck out the back door. He had to be escorted out the back door under police protection and his motor to get a quick getaway. I know we like laughing at these things, but it's pretty rough, isn't it? It's pretty disgusting. And I actually think as well that the way that it was reported was quite unfair on the guy. For again, I know you're saying what you bothering about, but where it was reported that he snuck out the back door. No, he didn't. He get taken out the back door for his own safety, which is quite frankly disgusting. It's pretty rough. But yep, there we go. Another one has been seen off. Put it on the. You see the picture of the tombstone with all the names and Brendan Rodgers next to it. But what I will say is, just to talk about a challenge for this season, I really, really hope that Celtic come out of this international break rejuvenated, and that as a springboard. We really need to push on for this because at this moment in time, Hearts are 100% looking like they could be a sustained challenge. Now, why do I say that? Because I think they've got a good manager for the league. I think that if you look at any team that he's been at, he tends to be quite good at recruiting. He tends to be quite good at drilling teams. He does know the league, and at various teams he's been at, he's been quite successful. So I think they've got a solid sort of manager, a sort of solid setup there. And of course, with the money coming in from Mr. Brighton and all the analytics and the forward thinking, and they've already got guys in the bag for January, they are moving forward and they are pushing forward. And it'll be very, very interesting. That's going to be a real marker as to where they are at and as to where we are at when we face them. Because that's pretty much round the corner after the back of the international break. And that'll be a real test of our metal, a real test of their metal. And I'm actually really, really looking forward to it. And I think that us having a challenge coming from elsewhere is probably quite refreshing. It's like, I know that Aberdeen fell away, right? And the backside fell at them. But see, whilst we were kind of going, ham and tong with Aberdeen, and it was, we were coming back for the death, last minute winners, and they were keeping exciting, I felt that it made us better because it was something different and it was the unknown. Whereas in years gone by, it's always been Rangers chasing. And I think that what's happened is, for right or for wrong, we've almost been dependent on the arse falling out of Rangers. The arse will fall out of Rangers and they'll fall away and we'll run away with it. But seeing you've got somebody like you had Aberdeen there, all right, they eventually did. But at this moment, you get somebody like Hearts who are kind of doing the right things and they look like they're on the right trajectory and they look like they're moving forward and they're being progressive. They are an unknown. There's no guarantees that they will just completely capitulate and fall away. So I think that makes us sharper. That should make us sharper. That should make us better. And it's actually quite exciting. But also now, with the Rangers manager being sacked, who's going to be the next person to take over? Now, at this moment stage, are they should we be looking at them as our rivals? Should we be looking at them as being contenders? Should we be looking at them as being in the picture to win the league? Well, common sense tells you no at 9 points, but again, I just revert back to what we spoke about earlier on. Sliding doors moments, that could have been reduced to 4 points. We get the job done with an equaliser, and those things won't continually happen. You won't get that slice of luck going your way and your way in terms of somebody losing results elsewhere. I genuinely think that as much as we sit here and we slag them off, I think they do have the bones of a pretty decent squad. And if they get the managerial appointment, and it's a big if because how many managers have we spoke about? But if they get a manager of any decent quality, certainly in the early stages, I think they'll get a tune out of them and they could bounce them on. And bear in mind that one of the games they'll face will be us in the cup and a one-off match. That puts an extra bit of spice into that. Had it been Russell Martin, I think we go there and we slaughter them. But now it's an unknown quantity. Who knows what they're going to get? And I really do think that if they go and get a manager and recruit properly, then they will start to kick on. But I also think that Hearts will continue to do it. So interesting times lie ahead for us there. But hopefully, as I say, that this takes us out the far end of this and we'll come away with a wee bit of positivity. Just before I go off, we're almost went an hour there. Let me have a wee quick double check just in case there's anything sent. Nope, still nothing. Mixed messages about what did and didn't happen, as I say, and I would rather report the actual facts to you than, WhatsApp CSC, which, as I said, inevitably always get the sort of facts muddled up and extra things added on. So I wouldn't do that to you. My understanding is from the general chats there, sometime around about 11, between 11, maybe midday, there'll be something official put out. More than likely, it'll be, as it always is, put out in concert. So we'll get, as one of the signatories, we will get sent the literature or the poster or whatever you want to call it that they send with the key points on it, or an email. And they'll normally say, we as the collective are going to tell you this. We're going to put that out on our social media at, let's just say, 12 o'clock. So please hold it to 12 o'clock and then fire it out there. So as soon as that comes out, we'll get that done. We'll get that out there, and hopefully it is something positive. As I said the other day, though, it's not going to be a one and done. A meeting isn't going to iron out all the problems, come to all the solutions. There'll be initial talks. There'll be maybe things discussed, maybe things put in place or expectations put in place, and then they'll work towards another meeting, and then maybe subsequent meetings after that. So it will be a slow burn, but I am absolutely desperate, waiting with bated breath to hear what the outcomes of that meeting were, as I'm sure you are. But anyway, listen, I'm going to get out your hair. The throat's starting to take its toll now. Hopefully my dulcet tones weren't too bad for you tonight. Once again, thank you to everybody joining us so late on here, and also thank you very much for the continued support. If you haven't done it before, hit the wee thumbs up. Helps that algorithm, gets more people involved, but more importantly, subscribe button. Costs you nothing, helps us out. We're motoring on. We're going to hit that 3,000 sometime soon, and that would be absolutely fantastic. And you can help us get there. So until next time, you take care of yourselves, and hail, hail.